Now it's everything official. Well, welcome tonight to our weekly session. It's a beautiful, like for me, just like seeing your faces and just like connecting with you outside of Sunday, it just, for me, this is my biggest, like it's one of my highlight of the week. So it's always beautiful to see your faces. I pray all is well with you. And tonight we're going to talk after we start with the prayer. We are going to talk about the topic that we were supposed to talk about last week, the midnight service, the hour services, and Compline hours and midnight service and the calendar year. But last week, because of what was happening in the Middle East and Lebanon, where the Holy Synod of Antioch, all the metropolitans of the all archdioceses of the Antiochian Patriarchate met. So we wanted to talk about and talk about what is the role of bishops and what is the synod and how things are done on the Holy Synod level. Let's start with the prayer and then we start our session. In the name of the Father and of the Son of the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. O Heavenly King, comfort to the Spirit of truth, who art in all places and fills all things, treasure of good life and giver of life, come and dwell in us and cleanse us from every stain and save our souls, O gracious Lord. Amen. Tonight, we are going to talk about the matin service. Well, not the matin service, forgive me. About the Compline service. I'm just making some space on my screen so I can share the screen with you. Here, we can do this here. Just as a a refresher, if I can say, we talked a couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, we talked about at length about the Vespers service and the matin service, the Orthos service, if you remember, right? So now to continue, Nancy, can I please share my screen?
Yeah, it's already set up, Father.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Let me just go like this. Should have probably done it on the church computer here because I have bigger screens. Share screen. Here we go. Share. So if you remember, now you can see my screen. Okay, great. Looking at this one here on the left side, Vespers is the first liturgical service in the liturgical day of the church. Okay, so as you also remember, the day in the Orthodox Church starts not like with the sunrise. It actually starts with the sunset of the previous day. So when we had the sunset today, we're technically, whatever, maybe it was an hour ago or 40 minutes ago, I don't know what time is exactly the sunset, today. Technically now we are in October 15th. Okay, so that's the liturgical day of the church. So whatever hymns that they were to be chanted at Vespers tonight, if we would have Vespers, there would be the hymns for tomorrow, October 15th. But Vespers is the first service of the day. The second service is Compline, okay? The Compline service. And the Compline service, to talk about, here, let's talk a little bit about it. Well, it is usually done after supper, like at night, after dinner, like 8, 9, 10 p.m., whatever it is, as long as it's basically after the sunset and after the Vesper service. Do we do these services, every day in our churches? I wish. In monasteries and convents, they keep that practice. It is part of their day. It's not, you're not gonna go to a monastery that, we don't offer Compline, maybe once a month or something like this. No, it's usually they're very, they're just, it's part of the day. You cannot not have unless something major happening. But so the Compline service, let's talk about the Compline service. The theme of it, when we read the hymns related and or used in the Compline service, they are about the sleep in Christ in Hades. So like before I go to sleep, Lord, forgive my sins, keep the evil thoughts from my mind during, while I'm asleep. But also in sleep, there's darkness, and with the light, after supper, it's dark. So it's like Christ in the midst of Hades, fighting darkness, fighting evil, fighting sin. So like brighten my heart, O Christ, or defeat, in the prayers we hear something like, Christ, we ask you to defeat Hades, defeat death, defeat the devil. So that the theme of it is sleep and Christ in Hades. But let's talk a little bit more about it too. You'll see with the notes, according to Father Hopko, the Compline is called the after dinner service of the church. Its name, both in Greek and Slavonic, indicates this, literally the after dinner. It is a service of psalms and prayers to be read following the evening meal, after Vespers has been served. On days where Vespers is connecting to divine liturgy, such as the eves of Christmas and Epiphany, Great Compline is added to matins to form a vigil service. During the first week of Great Lent, the penitential canon of St. Andrew of Crete is read at the Compline service. We don't have to go through all of these very specific details. So Compline is offered every day, unless in few major feasts, as you saw here, the eve of Christmas and Epiphany, there's what's called a Great Compline service, which is like an embellished Compline service. But where else or when else we use the term Great Compline, and we actually offer the service? I can't see everybody, so either Deacon can tell me who, or
During
you can
Holy
just,
Week.
unmute.
Nancy.
What did you say, Nancy?
During Lent.
During Lent, not Holy. So during Lent, from basically the first day of Lent till Saturday, or till Thursday before. Actually, you won't do it on Friday. From the first day of Lent, whatever that Monday, I think next year is March 9th, around that day, around that time. From the first day of Lent till basically the Thursday before the Saturday of Lazarus Saturday, we can offer the Great Compline service during weekdays. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday we basically we can also still offer it, but we do the Madayah service, the Akathist service. So it is common in our churches, especially in the States, just because if it's hard to be every day at church, to offer it once a week during Great Lent or twice a week. But technically it should be offered every single evening, every single night. You do the Great Compline service to remind you of some of the most important hymns of the Great Compline service. لأن الله معنا. For God is with us. معنا هو الله فاعلموا أيها الأمم وانهزموا. God is with us. Know ye. I don't know what the anyway, God is with us. Understand all ye nations and submit yourselves, for God is with us. And one of the other very important hymns and very popular hymns during Great Lent is the prayer of, or another hymn that we chant. Great Compline, refresh your minds. While Great Lent is coming, God willing, and you're going to hear it at least once a week or twice a week. On Fridays, but for Compline. Specifically for Compline, Great Compline. No, that's Holy Week. Allah. It starts with, in Arabic, it starts with Ya. In English, it starts with O. I don't want to say the next word because it will,
Ya Rabb al-Quwwat.
Bravo.
Ya Rabb al-Quwwat.
Yes. Ya Rabb, O Lord of hosts. O Lord of hosts, be with us, for we have none other beside thee. O Lord of hosts, have mercy on us. يا رب القوات كن معنا فإنه ليس لنا أحد معين سواك يا رب القوات ارحمنا. Okay, this is for the great. This is the embellished Compline service done in during Lent, Great Lent, and it's those the two major hymns, and then also we have a very important prayer, the prayer of Saint Afram. O Lord and Master of my life,
Nice.
Ya Allah, أيها الرب سيد حياتي أعطتني من روح الطلب. The prayer, the very penitential prayer, the ones we do prostrations, and so that's the and in the end, like all the other notes about the Compline service is just, it's good information, but mainly for what we deal with what we list here and we do in our parishes. That's what it is, the great Compline service, that it's usually done at sunset, after sunset, usually after supper, and you offer that. And the theme of it is the sleep in Christ and Hades, and asking God to repel any evil thoughts, to preserve us also during sleep and not die, or not because we don't have any power. It's not like you can call somebody, God forbid, if you're asleep, if you're like, somehow, Anyway, the point is we're asking God to preserve us, but also repel any evil thought that we might have at night. Okay, that's the Compline service. After the Compline service, we have we look at at our picture here. We have the midnight service. The midnight service, usually offer around midnight. It would be nice to tell you, like, I'll be wondering how many people will come if we say we're going to have midnight service every other day at St. George at 12 a.m. Your presence is very appreciated. I probably be falling asleep, not even waking up to come at at the midnight service. I don't know, but it would be nice one day to hear it. And actually, a lot of monasteries, they might not do it at 12, like right at midnight, and they might do it at 3 a.m. or right before Orthos service. So if they do an Orthos service at like 4 a.m. in the morning, they might start at 3:30, or if it's 5 o'clock in the morning, they do in the matins Orthos service, then they do the midnight service right before it, half an hour before or so. Okay, midnight service, usually the time of it is around midnight. It's judgment, Christ coming in the middle of the night, Christ in Gethsemane. One of the major hymns that we do in the midnight service, actually, let's read a little bit more about it, and then we can, the midnight service, there's another nocturne, another name for it. In monasteries, it usually begins the all-night vigil of the monks. It contains a number of psalms together with the normal prayers found in other services, such as the call to worship, the thrice holy. What is the thrice holy? What is the thrice holy prayer? Holy God, holy mighty, holy immortal, have mercy on us, sung, or read or said 3 times. All Holy Trinity, have mercy on us. The Our Father who art in heaven. And Troparion, which means hymns. Its theme is obviously the night and the need for vigilance. Why do we, what's the point of these prayers? In the end, like somebody says, like, oh, he's asleep, like it's like midnight for him. Even if it's 9 p.m. in Arabic, like right? I don't know if you, at least in Lebanon, we say, oh, for him, it's like midnight, even if it's like sleeping at 7 p.m. The point is he's like very deep asleep. And the whole point of the service, like at some point in your sleep, you're going to get to this like very deep sleep. But it's a reminder, like even when you're deep sleep, somehow we're going to ask God to like, keep me aware of what's going, like if anything bad is going to happen. I don't want to die, even like I don't want you to give up on me when I'm not like focusing, when I'm like very in deep sleep. Somehow like I won't be thinking of you. Please remind me, God, help me to always keep remembering you, even in my deep sleep. So that's, and what is a major hymn during Holy Week that we sing that has that word? Midnight. It's in Holy Week, we sing a very major hymn.
What
is the beginning of it? ها هو
هذا الختم.
هذا هو الختم يأتي في نص الليل.
Yeah, behold, at midnight, the groom or the bridegroom cometh at midnight. Okay, so the whole thing is like, even in your deep, don't fall like, I'm not saying like people, hey, make sure you have an alarm to wake you up every 15 minutes so you don't go deep sleep. We need that, but it's I'm gonna say, how do I, like in monasteries for them, like, yeah, we should not be like so comfortably sleep in all of this. So it's a reminder for us, like we always have to be ready, because to meet God. So we're not like asleep, because if something, if I'm going to be facing God, I want to be ready, not like sleep, or again, that doesn't mean like we have to do it at midnight. It's not usually done at I mean, some churches do it at midnight, some do it like early in the morning, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning. Okay, any questions about any of these services?
The elderly father, the elderly people prayers, they always say احمينا من سعة الغفلة.
Exactly. Like,
So
protect us from like the sleeping, or the hours of sleep, in a way. Like, that's why, and I'm not like saying like we have to do this, but like it's a lot of the monastic practices. Well, monks and nuns do not sleep on very comfortable, let's say, mattresses. Some of them, we hear stories about ascetics, like people, monks and nuns, that they sleep on rocks, that they sleep while they're like literally sitting, so they don't get very comfortable. It's part of their ascetic life, of like they don't want to be comfortable. They just want to, if they become comfortable, they might become like, they think like maybe lazy, or if not lazy, their mind goes somewhere else. They still always want to be alert, and instead of sleeping 7-8 hours, they would sleep maybe 1 or 2 hours at night, because they rather do prayers. They do read all kinds of different prayers. They read the Psalms, they read the Bible, whatever it is, and they feel like they want to spend more time doing this than just sleeping. There is a movie, one day I'd like to play it. It's an hour and, I think it's an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes. It's called Ostrov. Ostrov is a Russian word that means the island. It's a beautiful, meaningful movie. I don't want to talk more about detail, because one day I want to make it like, I don't know, either here at the church somehow, or we can all watch it on Zoom, while like, we make each person, like, just like we all, like, I'll share it on the screen. It's a beautiful, and you'll see the life of a monk who lived as an ascetic away from the monastery that he belongs to, but the way he lived, and why he lived the way he was living, and how he was, of course, at the end, he was declared a saint in the church, in the Russian church. Beautiful, meaningful, movie. But you'll see where he sleeps and how he sleeps. It's a movie. God willing, at some point, I do want people to watch it. It's called, I mean, you can find it. It's easy to find online. Ostrov, the island. But at some point, it would be nice to have it as a, watch it as a parish, or a young adult, or, or everybody in the end. Any questions about those services, at least the Compline and midnight, before I do a little bit about the hours, this part? Okay. The next sets of, after midnight service, we have the Orthos service, the matin service, but we talked about it because it's a very important, there's people in the chat, I don't know. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Nicolette shared the I don't know if you can see it there or like watch it, but honestly, I don't know if YouTube has it all. I think YouTube might have the whole thing.
It's a YouTube link. It's you can watch the whole thing.
On YouTube, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But what I sent was that. You can go in there and watch it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Nicolette, I like that. Every time we say we're going to, I mean, we're looking for this, or we might, and it's like, always you're ready. You have the link ready. Like, dum, here you go.
At your service, Abuna.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Very much appreciated. Really very much appreciated. So after the Orthos service, which we already covered, we have what's called the hours, the services of the hours. The first hour, the third hour, the sixth hour, and the ninth hour. First hour, when we say the first hour, it's like basically what is referred to in the Roman Empire time back in the days, 6 or 7 a.m. Okay, 6 or 7 a.m. now. the theme of it, the prayers and the readings that we read that at that hour, the theme of them is Christ before Pilate. Okay, like kind of like the prayers. I don't know, like they talk about Christ in front of Pilate. What did he say? Or like hymns about like, look at the King of all, King of creation, standing in front of the earthly king, and look what a humble, about humility and all stuff like this. The third hour is around 9 a.m. Pilate's judgment, descent of Holy Spirit at Pentecost. But also the hymns, the theme is about those two topics. The sixth hour is around noon, 12 p.m. The theme is Christ crucifixion. The hymns talk about Christ's crucifixion. And the ninth hour, the last service of the liturgical day, it's around 3 p.m. and it's about Christ's death. Okay, so the tradition tells us that Christ stood in front of, he was presented to Pilate at around 6 a.m. in the morning, at around like the early morning. Pilate made his judgment of like, I wash my hands, you guys do whatever you want to do with him. After he basically went back and forth with the Jews, like, why are you putting me in this? Is your king, you do whatever, and why you're telling me to deal with it. So after all this dialogue with the Jews, around 9 a.m. where he basically told them, well, you know what, I wash my hands, you do whatever you want to do with him. And then when the Jews says, crucify him, crucify him. Sixth hour, around noontime, when they crucified Christ, he was crucified around whatever day, on Holy Thursday, or what became called Holy Thursday. He was crucified around noon, and then he died on the cross as Jesus the human at around 3 p.m. During the, so basically he was 3 hours on the cross before he gave up his spirit. Okay, and now let's just talk a little bit about the hours. The services of the hours are called first, third, sixth, and ninth. These hours conform generally to the hours of 6 and 9 in the morning, noon, and 3 in the afternoon, as we just said. The services consist mostly of psalms, which are generally related to the events in the Passion of Christ, which took place at the particular hour of the day. The third hour also refers to the coming of the Holy Spirit to the disciples on Pentecost. So at 9 a.m., remember from the Acts of the Apostles, the Feast of Pentecost, where the apostles were all meeting, and then the Holy Spirit came in what shape?
No.
Fire, right? Fire, nar, right? So we believe that it happened around that time, around 9 a.m. in the morning, okay? And that's the theme for these, services. Some churches do these services literally at 6 or 7 a.m. Then they go back to church at 9 a.m. Then they do it at 12. They come back at 12. Each one of them is like half an hour long, 30 minutes, 35 minutes, depending on chanting the hymns or reading the hymns and the different hymns of the day, because every day, depending on the theme also of the day, not only the general theme of the service, but it's like a half an hour service. Or sometimes what they do is they do them all together at some point during the day, like one after the other. Okay, if you remember this past Holy Friday, I don't think it was ever done at St. George before. I did do the services of the hours, what's called the royal hours, their embellished version of those hours. And we did it right before the Vespers service, the unkneeling service, and right before the morning of the Jannaz, the lamentation service, Khidmat al-Jannaz. They are beautiful services. They called the royal hours, embellished hour service, the embellished services of the hours, because of the importance of the crucifixion of Christ. And we'll have another major royal hours, or what's referred to also as royal hours, the day before Christmas and the day before Epiphany, those very embellished hour services because of the importance of the day. of the celebrated feast the next day. Okay, any questions about these? Good. Next week we're going to have a test. You're going to have a paper and a pen, and I'm going to say you write all the liturgical services of the day by order and their meaning and theme, and then you submit your test by, I don't know, 12 a.m. So you cannot actually sleep very, deep, and you have to wake up at midnight, or you have to submit them by, at midnight.
That's too long, Father. You've been very kind.
Okay, so that was, now I don't have to share, although if I really feel like I have to share the next topic, I'll share it. The other topic we're going to talk to that comes after those services, in the book of Father Hapko, it's what's called the calendar year. The calendar
Father,
year.
I have a quick question before you
Yeah,
move on.
yes,
On the
please.
services. I know I missed some sessions, but are Orthos and matins the same?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So orthros is the Greek word for it.
Okay.
Matins, it literally means, in Arabic we say sahar. It's actually, in English, the better term is dawn,
Okay.
like the DAWN. It's like before the sun comes out, this light that we receive, like we usually have right before the sun is out. So technically you should end the Orthros service, you should end the Matin service by when the sun just came out.
Crack of dawn.
Okay. And when they do the matins and the Typica service, what Typica is
So Typica is just a special service in case of a time that somehow, like in the two times that we did them at St. George, that there wasn't a priest present.
okay.
So the Typica is offered from every, on Holy Thursday. I don't know if you've heard that before me say it. Every Holy Thursday, we make another lamb, another piece of bread that we give for communion, to save for what's called emergencies of, like, God forbid, somebody's dying that we need to give him or her communion before they pass away, or in emergencies or in cases where somehow the priest couldn't make it to church that Sunday or that whatever divine liturgy, then the deacons, or even in very, very, very extreme cases, a subdeacon or somebody designated from the parish, from the priest, a layperson that can give the communion. But this is like, it's usually at that point will be like, no, maybe in the old days they've done this, but now no, it's either if there's no priest, the deacons, and if there are no deacons to offer those, the communion for at the end of the Typica, then there's no service at all. Typica is just this, it is not part of those daily services.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And again, orthros is the Greek word for the word matins. Also, orthros in Greek, matins is in English. Same word. I mean, same thing. It's just a different language.
Thank you, Father.
Okay. Anytime. The next thing.
Runa?
Yes. Oh, yes. Rula. Yes, I see you.
Yes. Can you please explain to me again why we do Compline in the during of the Lent? I know Compline, we said before the mid of the night or mid of the night. Yeah, why we do it during the Lent?
Great Lent. Well, when it is an embellished Compline service, and look at the Psalms, look at the text of the Psalm. Well, in the end of the day, what is Great Lent for us? That's a good, probably. What is, what is the theme of Great Lent?
Like we live the resurrection. We prepare ourselves for resurrection.
We're preparing, but like, why do we fast?
To be ready for the.
But remember one of the the incidents, or one of the events, Christ, they came up to him and says, well, your disciples are not fasting like the others. Why aren't they fasting? What did Christ tell them? Bravo. So he says, why would they fast? The bridegroom is with them. I'm with them. Why would they fast? You don't need to fast when you're with Christ. So in a way, Great Lent for us is like when it's the time that we remembered that we abandoned Christ. We left him because we became sinners. We gave up on his teachings in a way, or we let go of him. We distanced ourselves from him. So in a way, that's why we have to fast. That's why it's like the importance of fasting in a way to repent, to come back to Christ. So in those services in the Great Lent, you read the Great Compline service, read the Psalms. They're very, very penitential. فيهم كلهم, it's all about humility. It's all about confession. بالعربي, it's all about توبة. الإحساس بالخطية, that recognizing like I'm so sinful. So it's like all of this to realize like how bad we messed up, but also we have the hope that at the end of it, Christ is still going to forgive us if we approach him with humility. So Great Compline, we do the Great Compline during Great Lent, is because the text of Great Compline are very penitential, which is the theme, of the whole season of Great Lent. The whole theme, the one major theme of Great Lent is this preparation to Pascha through penitential prayers, through humility, through recognizing our sins, through confessing, and through cleaning ourselves through these penitential prayers. Okay, so if you have the book, the service, Compline service, read it. Even the Great Lent or the regular Compline, well, I'm sorry, the Great Compline service or the Compline, regular Compline service, you'll see it's very penitential.
Yes.
The text of it, it's all, even the Psalms are chosen in particular way to only the ones that talk about how David was so feeling bad about his sins, asking God forgiveness and all of this.
Thank you, Abuna.
Ya Ahlan. Rula, what are you making for us? You're in the kitchen, so I'm assuming you're making some food.
No, I was washing the dishes after we ate salmon. We ate salmon. على قلبك.
I was smelling some salmon actually.
Yes. تفضل.
Thank you. So any other beautiful questions? All these questions, and please don't ever feel like, oh, I don't ask. That's why we're here. I just want to make sure that when you come to church, like you have at least a general idea of what's happening, not just because we just come here because we're used to it, or we don't know, but we still want to come, which is very much appreciated. But I do want you to like be aware, at least the general idea, and little by little get to know more and more why we do things. And the church in general, everything is done for a reason. The way they set up the services and stuff, it's just amazing. How the themes and all of this, it's very well thought, and it's the practice of many, or it's the planning of many, many years, to come out with what we have. All right, the church year. Although the 1st of September is considered the start of the church year, right? September 1st is the beginning of the church calendar year. According to the Orthodox church calendar, the real liturgical center of the annual cycle of Orthodox worship is the feast of the resurrection of Christ. Yes, technically, in the end of the day, what is the secular liturgical year? I'm sorry, look what the way I said it. When is the secular year start? January 1st, right? But what is it based on?
Nothing.
Yeah, but like when we say we are in the year 2021, okay, what was the year zero?
The birth of Christ. Yeah.
Bravo, Zabia. Zabia, drive safe. As long as you drive, you don't need to I can, as long as you.
I'm not looking at the
breaking up. But the point is, it's the birth of Jesus, but like our secular year doesn't start on
Basically,
December
it's not
25th.
actually the birth of Jesus, it's the birth of Mary, I think.
Well, that's why the church decided on September 1st. It's just like it's the year, in a way, the closest day, if I can say, also to the birth of the Theotokos. Also, but it's a major one because the Romans, we've talked about this anyway. But the point is, yes, our liturgical year starts at September 1st. It's like where everything is like kind of refigured. But at the end, what is the major event of this liturgical year? It's Pascha, Easter. Okay. Easter is this is the core of our faith, our liturgical calendar of everything is Pascha. Okay. And I know you use the word, well, there's nothing wrong of using the word Easter, but I also like to hear you saying the word Pascha. Okay. Pascha is more of like an Orthodox term, and it also means passing. Ubur. Pascha. Fusah, in Arabic we say Fusah. Okay.
Why do they refer to it as Basgha?
Well, in Greek, you'll see it's not written as Pascha. There's this he. It's like a Pascha. Like it's not a che even in Greek, but like with an accent. But it's like Pascha. Like it's Pascha.
Okay.
That's why sometimes you might see it in Arabic referred to as Bascha, but it's like Pascha, or in English, or Fusah in Arabic. That's it's from the Hebrew word, but in Greek they made it Pascha. It's not Pascha in Greek. Pascha. Okay, the Easter or Paschal cycle of worship begins with the season of Great Lent, right? Preceded by the special Pre-Lenten Sundays. What are those Pre-Lenten Sundays? So just in general, just to have an idea about this, and probably if I Google some kind of a picture or something, we can probably find that cycle, but it's fine. We have Pascha, right? And before Pascha, what else? What do we have right before Pascha for a whole week?
Palm Sunday.
Yeah, but like Palm Sunday. Yeah, but like, yeah, but this week Holy Week, right? It's between Palm Sunday and Pascha, right? That's like the special period. But also, thank you, Elias. Before Holy Week, what do we have?
Lent.
Great Lent, right? Great Lent, the whole period of Great Lent. And guess what? There is also, so Great Lent is the preparatory period for Holy Week and Pascha, right? And guess what? The church is like, oh, we don't want you just like to start fasting right from the first day like this, Great Lent. So guess what? We're going to give you a preparatory time or period for the preparatory period of Lent. Like the assistant of the assistant, you know what I mean? Like, so before Great Lent, we have a period of preparation for Great Lent.
Meat fair.
Meat fair is good, but it starts even before that.
Cheese fair and meat fair.
You guys all saying good answers, but even before.
The Triodian.
Okay, when does it start? Okay, but when does it start? What is the first Sunday, official Sunday of that preparatory period for Great Lent?
It's like Sunday before.
Palm Sunday.
شو في قبلهم?
Prodigal son, the
Prodigal son, Roxanne. And what's before the prodigal son?
Testron.
أحد الغفران.
No, you're going too far now.
Testron, أبونا Testron.
What is it?
Testron. تجريبي.
المخلع.
No, don't go. No. It's a parable. Okay, I'll give you a hint. It's a parable in the Gospels, and it talks about two people where
the
Parable of the publican.
Farisi wal Ashar, the publican and the Pharisee. Okay. Although, so the publican and the Pharisee, it's the first official Sunday or the first official day of this preparatory time to start, Great Lent. So that's why in it, like we start talking, like you'll hear the hymns about like, hey, Great Lent is all about humility. It's all about forgiveness, not like what's his name, the Pharisee. It's not about boasting. It's not about like showing, look, God, what I'm doing. So it's like it prepares us, and then the next day is about what? So the first one is about humility, as publican and Pharisee. The second week is about forgiveness, prodigal son. Like, oh, you made all this mistake, fine, God will embrace you again. If you come back, you turn back to yourself, you come back to yourself. Then what did we have, like you all mentioned? Then we have meat fair first, right? Last judgment. It's like, okay, now we're gonna remember what's going to happen at the end if you don't behave, if you don't apply those two prior Sundays, like the themes of those prior 2 Sundays. And then the following one is meat fair, cheese fair, where you're gonna cut basically everything now, meat and cheese and dairy and all of this. And then you start Great Lent, right? Look at Great Lent. It's the, it's like playoffs. You cannot start the Great Lent right away without the season. You know what I mean? Like pre-season. Well, actually, how about, no. So the pre-Lenten, like the pre-Great Lent area, so publican and Pharisee, prodigal son, meat fair and cheese fair, consider them in football like those, what do you call it? Pre-season games. Like, test yourself. Okay, who's best? Who's good to play here? Okay, where are we gonna, who are we gonna put on the bench? Here's how we're gonna, here's the kind of the plan of what's coming. Great Lent is the season.
But sometimes rookies can do better than the players, Father.
I mean, just I'm just saying, in the end, at least the theme of it. I don't know, probably there's a better example. And then Holy Week is playoffs. Only it's the hard work. You better like push, and then Easter is what? Pascha is what? Super Bowl. Okay. For people who like football. So preseason, season, playoffs, and Super Bowl. Okay, that's the triogen, and all right. So the Easter cycle of worship begins with the season of Great Lent, preceded by the special Pre-Lenten Sundays, and there are 4 Sundays. The Lenten order of worship fulfills itself in Holy Week and the great days of Christ's resurrection. Great day of Christ's resurrection. Following Easter or Pascha, there are the 50 days of Paschal celebration until the Feast of Pentecost, right? That's what's Pentecost? Literally, it's a Greek word to say the 50th, okay, or the 50s, okay, which is always this 50 days after Christ's resurrection, okay? Following Easter, every week of the year is then considered in the church worship as a Sunday after Pentecost. So I think now we are,
17,
18, yeah, 17, 18. So this coming Sunday, I think it's going to be either what, the 17th or 18th? One of them. It's the 17th or the 18th Sunday after Pentecost. Whenever, so 18 weeks ago or 17 weeks ago, Pentecost took place. Okay, and that's how we name those Sundays. The weeks are counted in this way: first Sunday after Pentecost, second Sunday, or the 18th Sunday after Pentecost. Look at the bulletin. Look at the bulletin in the beginning when it says like the saints commemorated, or if you're following the service online, look at the header, and it will tell you in the matin service, it will tell you which Sunday after Pentecost. The 17th, the 18th, all of these things. Okay, the weeks are counted in this way: first, second, etc., until the pre-Lenten season. So until the Sunday of the publican and Pharisee, Farisi wal Ashar. Again, when the weeks are given their name and central content of worship in view of the annual return of Easter or Pascha. Sunday is always dedicated to the resurrection of Christ, right? We talked about this. Wednesdays and Fridays commemorate Christ's suffering and crucifixion. Okay? The theme of all those services also that you might encounter on Wednesdays and Friday, they have the theme of Christ being crucified and tortured and all of this. Monday's theme is the bodiless powers. What's another name for the bodiless powers? Who are the bodiless powers?
Angels.
Of course, angels, right? If you hear the word angels, you know what it means. If you hear the word bodiless powers, you should also know that it's also another name for angels. In Arabic, we call them al-adimi al-ajsad, the ones without bodies, bodiless powers. Al-adimi al-ajsad. When we hear that term, adimi al-ajsad, that also means, angels. Tuesday is dedicated to the memory of John the Baptist, and that's not any or specific Tuesday. Every Tuesday of the year. Literally, if we're doing a matin service this past Tuesday or this coming Tuesday, the hymns will be around St. John the Baptist. On Wednesdays and Fridays, they're going to be around the theme is the crucifixion. On Mondays, we're talking about the angels and their relationship with God and Christ. Okay? Tuesday is dedicated.
Abuna, I have a question. Why John the Baptist on Tuesday, every Tuesday? Just curious.
So it's a good question. Like, well, the way the church offer, and it's actually, I don't know all the answer, but like I can go, like work around it. So Sunday, it's always, for Christ, right? I mean, it's resurrection because we believe Christ resurrected and declared his resurrection for Christ on Sundays, right? Saturday, it has always been, Christ is in the tomb. He just went to defeat, Hades and all of this. So the theme always on Saturday is for the dead, for the departed, right? Wednesday and Friday, and we talk about the crucifixion on Wednesday and Friday because of for two events. Wednesday, Judas betrayed Christ. Judas went to the Jews and offered them to give them Christ. And Friday he was crucified. And then you have Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Monday for the angels. Look at Tuesday and then the apostles. And I can tell you that's it will be nice to see if there's an official reason why, but my initial understanding of this, look at it. Angels were created before people. Okay, so angels, those are the ones, the bodiless ones, right? What's the next thing? What is St. John the Baptist referred to? He
was beheaded. He was
okay, fine, but like in some icons, I don't
Proclaiming.
know. What is it, Roxanne?
I want to say proclaim. He proclaimed the coming of Jesus.
Sure, but also
He goes to Genesis, to the beginning.
okay, but like in some icons, honestly, I don't know if we have it here at St. George in his icon. You know how he's depicted? He's depicted with wings. He is an angel, he lived as if he was an angel. Like no one exceeded his, in a way, as a human being, no one exceeded in a way his asceticism. So in some icons, you might see him like wearing angels. That doesn't mean he was an angel. He was a human being, 100% a human being, but he's depicted with angels.
Do you think also because he foretold the coming of Christ?
Sure. So see how the preparation, angels, Christ, the Baptist, preparing the way, and he's like, although he's a human being, 100% a human being, but he's also lived the life as if he was an angel. What do we say when we see a baby or like somebody, like we want to talk nice about somebody who's like, oh, he's like an angel, right? That doesn't mean he was an angel, but like the person is like acting as if he's an angel. And then who do we commemorate on Thursday? The apostles.
Holy Theotokos?
No, well, it's a good thing. Holy Theotokos is usually, she's commemorated almost every day. It's like, but also it's part of Wednesday and Friday. Sometimes you'll see or most of the time, we'll see hymns a lot for the Theotokos. But like Thursday is for the apostles. So, like you said, Elias, he prepared the way, right? So we had angels, Saint John the Baptist in order, like who prepared the way, and then we have the apostles. But then
Yeah, that
that's why they were
makes sense,
given,
Abu.
probably Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. The other days we had to abide with them because there are certain, specific events that took place on these days. Deacon, you had your hand. We wanted to say
Yeah,
something.
it's just, even Christ, he stated that nobody was born like John. John is above even of all the prophets that preceded him. So no one is like him. So he already stated that. And another thing, Father, that brings a great point about Wednesdays and Friday, because I always didn't know why my grandparents and parents, they always fasted every Wednesday and every Friday, but they never told me why. But it makes more sense of what you have said now.
That's true.
Okay, so that's what definitely, Wednesday, because the belief is like this is when Judas, the Iscariot, went to the Jews and told them, "I'll deliver him to you." So it's a sad day. That's why, and of course, Friday, the day, he was crucified and went to death, basically. So I do want to share my screen again, because I do want to show you the icon of St. John the Baptist. Well, now you're seeing all of this, but when you look here, okay. Do you see my screen? Look at this one. It's opening. Just give it a second. See those angels? Those wings?
It's coming.
Oh,
There we go.
here's another one.
Wow, nice.
Here's another one. And why we have another head of him here?
When he was beheaded.
Right? Because he's also beheaded. But it's very common to see him depicted as an angel. Who else is depicted or called to be an angel? One of other prophets. In his hymn, we refer to him, you who are an angel in the body of a human being. There's another prophet.
Is it Elias?
Alicia?
Elias.
Elijah. That's what.
No, Elias is Allah. Also, Elias is Allah. They just to keep that up. He hides his wings when he comes to church. Elias, that's why sometimes you'll see him.
God bless you, Abu. Allah يخليك يا ربي.
Elijah or Elias is referred to as also, he's the second forerunner, we call it. In his hymn, he's also like, who's the first forerunner? St. John the Baptist. And he's the forerunner of the forerunner. He's like, vice president, first vice president, second vice president. So Christ is the president, St. John the Baptist is the vice president, Prophet Elias is the second vice president.
But only two fathers that they did not die. Everybody else died. Only two that did not, which is Elijah and Enoch.
Yeah.
Enoch.
Yes. But sure. But like also Elias, Prophet Elias, I'm just to that point that he's referred to as another angel in the body of a human being, like St. John. Okay.
How did the angels prepare for the Jesus coming?
That's a good question. Well, it's not like, they definitely in the end, who came to the people and told them? Who were the messengers? So the angels are basically they were the messengers in the Old Testament, in the day of the Old Testament, who delivered the message of God. And that's how they prepared for Christ. They're the ones who spoke about Christ. He's who's the one who showed up isn't it an angel who showed up to the Virgin Mary and told her you're going to, you're going to have the Son of God, and so in a way that's how they prepared the way. Who told the shepherds that there is somebody, the Son of God is going to be born? The angels, and that's how in a way they prepared it. Who
never thought about it that way.
What is it?
Okay. Never thought about it that way. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
You are very, very welcome. Very, very welcome. Any other questions? Okay, we'll continue with
Father,
Hey.
I have a question regarding John the Baptist,
Hey.
but like considering the name, like we usually, I know the name consists of like it's a compound name. It's
Yohanna,
in
yeah.
Arabic. In Arabic, it's Yo and Hannah and Hannit. It's like it's not Hannah actually.
Yeah.
Why us we name Hannah but we don't name Yohanna?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm sorry, I'm just hooking up my tablet with the charger. Yes, so technically, officially, my name, if I want to now introduce myself, like I'm gonna know if I want to, I don't say I'm Father Hannah officially. I should say I am Father Yohanna. So Yohanna is the proper name of what translates in English to John. Okay, in Greek it's Ioannis, but no one is called in Greece. It's officially on the paper, everybody's called Ioannis, but everybody's, when you call them, no one wants to go through like, oh, Ioannis. So what do they say? They say Yanis or Yani. Same thing in Arabic. Instead of saying Yohanna, people started saying, oh, as an abbreviation, Hanna, Hanna, Hanna. But if somebody's actually, and we name people on the, sometimes on their IDs or Hanna, but technically the official name is Yohanna. Like, I don't know, somebody's named Elizabeth. We keep telling, it's like how many people that were actually named Elizabeth that we actually call them Elizabeth, usually Lizzie, Liz, and then it just becomes like, as if like really as if like their name is Liz. But officially, you'll be like,
I had a friend, Syrianic friend called Johanna in class. They call it Johanna.
The official name is Yohanna.
He was called Johanna every minute.
Yeah, even our patriarch, his name is Yohanna.
Yeah, right.
We don't call him Muhammad.
Yeah هذا اسم الديني يعني اسم الofficial.
So like if I want to introduce myself, even if like I meet somebody, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I'm in the old country, or like I'm just speaking to somebody in Arabic and I want to introduce myself. I don't introduce myself as Father Hanna al-Masih. I would say I'm Father Ana Abuna or Al-Ab Yohanna al-Masih. Okay, because Yohanna, like if, in Greek, if somebody wants to introduce himself professionally, he should say Ioannis. But the abbreviation became like, that's the common name, Hanna, Hanna, Hanna. Okay?
In my language, your name is Johannes, Father.
Oh, Johannes. And is there any like an abbreviation? Is that what it's the word? Like, how like William, what we call William? Nickname. Done. Ready. Thank you. Like Bill, is your official name Bill on the here's your example.
It's William.
But like, but if he goes to, I don't know, if he's really he's, God forbid, I don't know, whatever legal thing he has to do, what is he gonna state your name for the records? What is he going to say?
Oh, it depends on where I'm at. It could be Bill. It could be William.
That's even like Rainey. We call her Rainey, but she's Lorraine. She's been Lorraine. I've never called her Lorraine almost since the day she was born, unless I'm mad at her. Then I call her Lorraine.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's Rainey. Yeah.
But okay, so Zabia, you get to your point. Yohanna is like this is the official name. Okay,
like a nickname.
Yeah, Hanna became like, oh, that's the nickname of Yohanna. It's like, do we really need to add this extra syllable? Do we really, as if like the end of the world, if you say Yohanna, Hanna, Yohanna, less of a, what is the, anyway, but names like this. Okay, let's go back to, so we said Mondays are dedicated for the angels. Tuesdays are dedicated for St. John the Baptist. Wednesday and Friday, they're dedicating for the crucifixion, right? Thursday is dedicated to the apostles, and St. Nicholas. Honestly, I don't know why specifically St. Nicholas. It just hit me. I was like, huh, I just never, St. Nicholas, why specifically St. Nicholas? I need to look up this. But in general, they are for the apostles. Saturday is for who?
Dead.
Theotokos.
No,
No, the
Theotokos. You'll see it. You'll see the topic on, hymns about the Theotokos almost in every single day. A little bit more than usual on Wednesdays and Fridays too, but like hers is like all the time. But Saturday is referred to the departed.
To the
And,
death, yeah.
yes, and in the ladies' meeting on Tuesday, I said something. It probably a lot of people was the first time that they've heard. Memorial services are not to be done on Sunday. We actually have rules in the church, canons, to basically to say, do not, like, you should not be having memorials on. And even if I take 5 or 10 minutes on this to explain this, because Sunday is what? The day for resurrection. Exactly. It's the day of rejoicing. And if for memorials to take place, it can be on whichever other day, especially on which day they should be taking place? Saturday. Why? Because the whole theme of the day is Christ in the grave, Christ fighting Hades, Christ fighting death. So you're supposed to have a liturgy on Saturday, like you have liturgy every day. Or if you don't have a liturgy, if you can't have a liturgy on Saturday, at least the Vespers service, or if none of the above, it's fine, just the memorial service on Saturday. That's actually in the rules, in what's called the canons. But now you tell me, Abuna, have we been doing something all these years, all these churches? We only hear about, memorial services on Sundays. Yes, it's because it became after a while, there was just people don't want to make the trip twice. And if they, to come on Saturday and then come on Sunday. So it's like the church, in a way, with a twisted arm, had to allow this, had to allow Sunday to be, also to offer memorial services on Sundays. I'm not saying, God forbid, we were doing something like like against, it's a heresy or something, heretical. That's the word I was like trying to how to pronounce, heretical. But at the end, and like people sometimes, whenever you have a memorial, you want to, make sure other people are, with you, coming to support and pray with you. Sometimes people don't want to make the trip on Saturday and then Sunday, but that's why the church kind of like, okay, if you want to do it on Sunday, it's fine. We'll do it on Sunday. The whole thing is just to tell you, if somebody calls me and say, you know what, Abuna, we want to do a memorial on Saturday for this person, I will, for whoever, I'll be, by all means. The same way, if you tell me we still want to do it on Sunday, I'll be by all means sure we'll do it. But I do want you to...
إذا بده السبت, who's going to eat the القمح?
Well, the people you invite, and then it's like it's about like what we're gonna eat, I know we'll save it till Sunday too, we'll give it to the people on Sunday too. But I just, these things, again, we do a lot of things that it's okay, the church allows us to, to do them, but I do want you to understand in the end why we're doing this and what are the other understanding about this, subject. So technically memorials are called to be done on Saturdays. Why? Because that's the theme of it. It's like properly, because people through the centuries and through the days were not able to accommodate coming to Saturday and then Sunday, and or to get people to pray with them at, on Saturday, we started offering it. So yeah, might as well, everybody's there. Oh, might as well, let's do this. Let's do it on Sunday, and everybody's coming Sunday. So why not? It's fine. Of course, it's, in the end, but it's, in the early church, there was like a no thing. Oh, no, you're coming Saturday and you're coming, you'd better show up Sunday. I wish I can tell you this. Oh, no, we're all going to come Saturday and then Sunday. No, I'm just kidding. God bless you. Anyway, let's continue. Any questions about this? Good. Where are we? Okay. There are 12 major feast days of the church. 12 major feast days of the church, which are universally celebrated. Easy. What are they? Christmas, Nativity of Christ, right? Theophany, Epiphany, the day Jesus got baptized. Presentation of Christ to the temple. Okay, first of all, when is Christmas? What day?
December 25th.
December 25th, unless you are from Palestine.
January.
January
7th.
Yeah, which I'll talk about it at the end of that, this section. We'll talk about it and why the confusion and why the difference. We'll talk a little bit about it. When is Epiphany? If Christmas is on December 25th,
January 7.
January 6th.
6.
the day before. It's okay. That's okay. One day. It's about St. John the Baptist anyway. He's the one who did the baptism. That's fine. Well, I love this. When is the third major feast of the church, or the third one, or one of them, is the presentation of Christ to the temple. دخول السيد إلى الهيكل. Presentation of Christ to the temple. When do we celebrate that?
February 2nd.
21st.
But when he was 12?
Yes.
No,
February 2nd.
when he was a 40-day-old and they brought him to the temple. So December 25th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, count 40 days. Where do you end up?
February
4th.
What is it? Zabi, I didn't hear what you said.
February 4th or some,
Second.
I think, or 2nd, yeah.
Second.
Like Nancy said. Okay. February 2nd is the presentation of Christ to the temple after 40 days of his birth. The same way. Why do we bring the child 40 days after he or she's born? Based on that. Based on like Christ being introduced. It's a Jewish tradition to bring the child to the temple always 40 days after he or she's born. Okay. Transfiguration of Christ. When is the transfiguration? Eid al-Tajalli in Arabic.
August 6th.
August 6.
August 6th. Sitti Ab is the transfiguration of Christ. The nativity of the Theotokos, Milad al-Sayyid.
September 8th.
September 8th.
September 8th. I like that. That's a good. It's good. It's good. It's good. September 8th. Her presentation to the temple. Her Eid Dukhul
November
al-Sayyid.
21st.
Which one?
21st of November.
November 21st. 40 days after September 8th. Okay. Or how many of these now? Nativity, Epiphany, presentation, transfiguration, nativity of the Theotokos. Okay.
How about the Dormition of the Theotokos?
Bravo. Dormition of the Theotokos, Eid Ruqad al-Sayyid. When?
August
15th.
15th.
August 15th. Another feast is Annunciation.
Exaltation of the cross.
Sure, but like one by one, because I just said Annunciation, Eid al-Bshara. When is Eid al-Bshara?
The 25th of
January.
لا of
Yeah,
لا
March.
لحظة.
Next January.
25th.
March 25th.
March 25th, yeah.
Yes. Eid al-Bshara.
Equinox.
Yeah, it's 9 months after, no, or 9 months before the Nativity
December
of Christ.
25th,
Yeah.
right? Nancy said the exaltation of the cross. Eid al-Salib. When is Eid al-Salib?
September 14th.
September 14th, 14 Elul. Bravo. So how many of these we have now? 1 second. We have 12. Nativity, Epiphany, presentation to the temple, transfiguration, nativity of the Theotokos, Annunciation, presentation to the temple, Dormition, exaltation. Okay. And then you tell me, what are the other ones?
Palm Sunday.
Palm Sunday, yeah.
The entrance of, okay. And what else?
And then Pascha.
No, Pascha, leave it to the end. We'll talk about it in a second. Ascension, which is how many days after Pascha?
40.
40.
40, yeah.
And here's your 12th feast. What is the 50 day after Pascha?
Pentecost.
Pentecost.
Al-Ansara. Those are the 12. And then you'll tell me, oh, hold on a second. You never mentioned the word Pascha.
Mm.
You didn't say, Easter is not, the 12, one of the 12 feasts. And I'll be like, no, it is not one of the 12 feasts. It is Pascha. It's the feast of
Eid
those 12
al-Ayad.
feasts. Yes. We call it in one of the hymns, we call it Eid al-Ayad wa Mawsim
Mawsim
al-Mawasim.
al-Mawasim.
It's the feast of the feast and the season of all seasons.
Super Bowl.
What is it, Tina? I didn't hear.
The Super Bowl.
It's like the Super Bowl thing.
Good job, Tina.
Right? See, now every time you're gonna, on Sunday I talked about food, shawarma and stuff. I think every time I want to talk about something Christian, like something about like what we need to do, I need to relate it also to food and things that very, people do it continuously.
Everyday things.
Because you have to eat every day. So every time you eat, you'll be like, I have to go for confession like this. Every time I have to grill, it's like, I have to think about forgiveness. Every time I have to and we cannot live without a grill. We cannot live without, meat and food. So, anyway, so Pascha is not counted among the 12 major feasts of the church, since it is considered by itself as the feast of feasts. That's like the epitome of all feasts. It's just like, it's not even equal to, in a way, it's not like just like any other feast. Here's another point. The list, we have two more points, and then I'll talk a little bit about the difference between the calendars. Different Orthodox churches emphasize the other days of the year according to their particular relevancy and significance. Thus, the day of Saint Sergius, he's a saint in the church, would be greatly celebrated in Russia. Saint Spiridon or Saint Demetrios be very, greatly celebrated in Greece.
Yes.
Saint Herman of Alaska, big thing in America. Who do you think among the Arabs, usually among the Antiochian churches, is the one who's very revered?
And George.
And George.
Right? So in some other churches outside, Antioch or outside the Middle East, oh yeah, of course we revere Saint George and we love him and we celebrate him, but like maybe you'll have one Saint George church in the whole country, I don't know, in Russia or something. But in Greece, give you an example, see how like in America 99% of our churches are Saint George? Yeah, the Greeks have the other problem, the other thing. 80% of their churches are named after who?
Saint Demetrius.
Exactly. Why? Because it's like Saint Demetrius, like he is our saint, but in the eyes of the church, in the end, they're all the same. But like people, like they feel connected, like, oh, this saint is from our area, this saint like came from my neighborhood, Saint George, you know what I mean? Like how many people like can claim like, well, down the street from where I lived, where I grew up, so you might see more emphasis on one saint, on another, depending on the area, right?
Why Peter and Paul always together? Why Peter and Paul is always together?
Yeah, it's interesting. They sell well. It's a good question. I don't know if any, but like the church is wise to put them together, because I think in the end of the day, they were totally two different personality.
I agree, Father. I have the best example in my house.
Roxanne, that was beautiful. You are, Peter and Paul will be then the living example of the original Peter and Paul. And
how was that? I didn't get that.
So why? When you read the Acts of the Apostles, you'll see how they're like, if one of them says one thing, the other one is like, oh no, it's the total opposite. One of them was like, Peter was like, let's do this. We have to do this. And Paul, like, so Peter is like this kind of like, we don't need to plan. We don't need to think. This is how it is. Like this kind of like, I don't know how to explain, it just no plan. And then you get Paul, who's like, hold on a second. Things should be done accordingly. Let's take our time. Let's think, more into this. No, Peter is like, no, we need, new converts to the Christianity. They need to be circumcised because that's what we have to do. And just like even his language, the way he was talking, he talks in the Acts of the Apostle, and you get Paul to say, brothers and sisters in Christ, love Christ. It's okay. It's just like two different total personalities that to the point at the end of the day, they couldn't work together. That's why one went left, one went right.
It just rhymed. It just rhymed well, Peter and Paul.
Could it be, Father, one was persecuting Christians and then he turned to be Christian, and one was Christian and then he denied them?
Sure. I mean, but also don't forget he repented.
I understand. But
the main point, I think,
like two extremes.
Yeah, exactly. You had two extremes of like two different personalities, two different, like they butt-headed together multiple times in the Acts of the Apostles when you read the Acts of the Apostles. But what did they have in common?
Love for Christ.
Exactly. They had their ways. They had their different ways. Each one of them thought to approach Christ in a different way. Fine. But they never, in the end of the day, what was best for the church was not, they didn't do what best for Peter nor for Paul. Okay. So in the end of the day, we have that example, great, in a lot of times in our churches, that, sometimes when people fight, it's just like sometimes they go, astray. But the point is, sometimes they blame, or like it affects the church. And with Peter and Paul, they had their different ways. They had their butt-heading, they had their fights, but they just did it there in the end for the church. In the end, they still worked. They had to humble themselves. So when Peter was told convinced by Paul that, I just give an example, that's just a common example that, took place in the Acts of the Apostles. Peter was very adamant that everybody should follow the Jewish tradition by everybody should be circumcised. Well, Christ himself was circumcised. Why? And then Paul, after he explained that, no, baptism took over, or replaced circumcision, Peter was like, okay, I see the point of Christ being the center. So whatever I said before, fine, I will basically leave it and follow you, Paul, on this. But that's why the church always depict them two together and what's been between them.
Common theme, love of Christ.
What is in between them? Let me see if I can.
They were crucified at the same day, I think.
No, well, around the same, but like in the icon, there's always something in there.
The church.
They're in their icon. 99% of the time, you'll see Saint Peter and Paul holding a church, and I'll show you in a second. Let me find, and then we'll.
Do they call them fathers of the church?
They won't say no, they won't be called like this. But let me just find. Usually hamatai, how would you translate hamatai? The hello. I mean, they're for the
الهالي.
Yeah, the hello, like basically the shining. Here, let me just share the screen, and then I show you Peter and Paul. Share screen. Share. So see how sometimes you see their cheeks together, even they were different, but also look at this icon. They're holding the church. That in the end of the day, they still took care of the church, and what was best for the church was before what's best for them. That's another icon of them. Sometimes you'll see. Okay. How do you differentiate between Peter and Paul, even if there are no names? Sorry.
Well, I'm glad I asked.
So Peter,
One doesn't.
Paul is always depicted with this like long beard, bald hair, bald head, skinny-ish. Peter is more of like this older guy, beard like this, you know, a gray, you know, salt and pepper. Even if there are no names, usually when you see that, like this is Paul, this is Peter. Okay. And I just don't want to go too long. The Feast of Christmas has its own cycle of prayer and pattern after Pascha. There is a 40-day Lent preceding it and a post-feast celebration following it, right? What do we, before Christmas, what do we have? What's called the period of Advent, right? How many days before Christmas?
40.
40 days, right? When is it? When does it start?
November 15th.
November 15th. November 15th is the first day of the Advent. Okay. And then 40 days we come to Pascha, to Christmas, but Pascha has 50 days after. Christmas has how many days? Usually 2 weeks, like, I mean, a weekish. I mean, if I want to really push it, you know, you can still consider to presentation of Christ, the hymns, because then between Christmas and the baptism of Christ, theophany, a lot of the hymns are like kind of interchangeable anyway, in like the same. But anyway, Christmas has almost a exact shape of like how Easter is, Pascha is formed. Okay. The Feast of Mary's Dormition and Saints Peter and Paul also have traditional Lenten preparations of shorter durations, right? So before the Feast of Saints Peter and Paul, we have what's called the Fast of the Apostles, Sawm al-Rusul. How many days?
9.
1 week.
Guess what? Whatever number you're going to tell me, it's going to be wrong.
It all depends when Pentecost is.
Not Pentecost.
Sure.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, I should have said, yeah, but like Pentecost, what is it affected by?
Pascha.
So it can be 1 day, it might be 0 days, or it might be 40 days. So the more Pascha is late, the more you celebrate Pascha end of April in May, then you don't have much time, because it's basically Pentecost. You finish Pentecost, okay? And then the first Sunday after Pentecost, it's what's called the All Saints Sunday. Okay? And after that, the Monday after All Saints Sunday, it's basically, this is when the Fast of the Apostles starts, but it should end on January 29th. So sometime, I'm sorry, June 29th. Thank you. So, how do I want to? So Pascha is May 2nd, let's say. Pascha, if it's Pascha May 2nd, that means 7 weeks after May 2nd, it's gonna be probably now end of May. Or no, not only end of May, no.
Mid of May.
I'm sorry, almost mid-June. May 2nd,
50 days after, yeah.
Right, 50, like you're already in June, and then it's
1 week
Sunday after, so it's like 60 days. So now it's like almost toward the end of June, if not like, so the earlier Pascha is, the more fasting days for the Feast of the Apostles.
And Father, the Feast of the Apostle ends on June 29, like the day of or the day before?
So the day of the, June 29th, the Feast of the Apostles, Saints Peter and Paul, you go take communion and you break your fast. So again, the earlier Pascha is, if it comes in the beginning of April, well, guess what? That means Pentecost is earlier. That means the Sunday of All Saints is earlier. That means the Monday after, you're going to have a long way to get to June 29th. So you're going to fast longer.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's up to sometimes 40 days. I think the most that you can get is like 40 days. Imagine you just finished 40 days, you celebrate it for 50 days, no fasting, and then you go back to another 40 days.
Yeah.
If
That's
Pascha is
almost
late, the later Pascha is, the much shorter time that you're going to spend, fasting for the feast, for the Saints Peter and Paul on June 29th. Good? Little by little, I'll explain these things when it's time, you know what I mean? Like on Pentecost, on stuff like this. I just want to start like planting those small seeds about these things. Okay?
I remember from back home, they used to fast for Santa Barbara, day, in a few days, and then for Noah, for 3 days.
Well, it's interesting. I mean,
that's not,
So Saint Barbara, anyway, it's on December 4th. It should be anyway during Advent. So maybe, anyway, you should be fasting, but probably a lot of people, it's like when we say, oh, I'm just fasting Wednesday and Fridays. You know what I mean? It's like, well, yeah, during the year when there's no, fasting period, you're supposed to fast Wednesday and Friday. But during Lent or Advent, you're supposed to fast every day. So I think what you probably what's happening, or what used to happen in your, in your area, is they made it a point during Advent to make sure they fast on these days around Saint Barbara. And with Job, anyway, Job always, his feast is like during Great Lent, usually. So it's like people should be anyway, but I think they make it a point, even if they didn't fast, or they only fasted a specific day during Great Lent, that on these days we do want to fast.
Nuh, father.
I'm sorry, it said Nuh, not Ayub. Yes,
Yeah.
Job. Yes,
Yeah.
Noah. Okay, and even the same thing with Ayub, Job, same thing. We have back in the old days, it was, I don't remember which Wednesday, always commemorated Job, and people will go wash their faces in the water, in the in the sea, and all of these things, practice, and they made it a huge thing. But anyway, last thing, most of the major feasts have a pre-festal preparation of liturgical prayer and a post-festal glorification. This means that the feast is called to mind and is glorified in the church liturgical services in anticipation of its coming, and is also celebrated in songs and prayers for some days in the church after its passing. Perfect example, remember a couple, last month for the Feast of the Cross, we had a Sunday that's called the Sunday before the Feast of the Elevation of the Cross, right? And then we had the Feast of the Cross, and then we had another, the following Sunday, it was called the Sunday after the Elevation of the Cross. So anytime, the church is like, okay, we're coming to the Feast of the Cross on September 14th, guess what? We're going to start preparing for it the week before. Hey, the hymns will be like, oh, in a few days we're coming to Christ, celebrating the Feast of the Cross and stuff like this. And then after we celebrate the feast, it's not like that's it, no, we celebrate the feast and we still celebrate a few days, right? It's like back in the old days for weddings and stuff. The party starts a few days before the wedding, a couple days, 2-3 days, whatever, and then the wedding day, and then you probably have 2-3 days and sometimes a week celebration for the wedding, right? In the old days, back in the old days, you would never have just the wedding day. That's it. That's the only festal day. It's usually you're preparing for it with the tabl and everything, and then you're still celebrating after the wedding. Okay, that was, any questions about this?
Not anymore, Father. It's getting too expensive.
Exactly. No one wants, it's like now that's it, the day of the wedding and khalas, reception. So that's the last thing, that at least with the book. The only thing and it's already 8:40. The only thing I want to just mention, we've had, sometimes, and I've had people come and telling me like, Father, why are we celebrating the Feast of the Cross on September 14th? Why isn't it September 27th? Why is Christmas on December 25th? Why isn't it on January 7th? Why is this? Why all these differences? And usually the people who ask those questions usually, I mean, don't get me wrong, but usually who grew up in what's called the Patriarchate of Jerusalem. Okay, why is that? We do have two calendars that the Orthodox Church in the world follow. Okay, so there are two major calendars that the Orthodox Church in the world, the Orthodox churches in the world follow. So what happened is Orthodox churches decided to go with what's called the new calendar at some point in the life of the church. And some churches said, no, we're still going to stick with the old calendar. Okay, so why in general, before I go a little bit specific, the Patriarchate of Antioch, although it's like in a way down the street from the Patriarchate of Jerusalem, decided in the 20s and the 30s to say, you know what, we are going to adopt the new calendar. Okay, and I'll talk about in a second what is this new calendar and old calendar. The Patriarchate of Jerusalem, like the Patriarchate of Russia, like the Patriarchate of Serbia, like a couple other patriarchates, said, no, we are still sticking with the old calendar, the original calendar that the Orthodox Church based all its feasts and celebration on.
Gregorian calendar.
So the Julian calendar.
Julian and Gregorian.
So the old calendar, what's referred to as the Julian calendar, and the Gregorian calendar, it's what's referred to now as the new calendar. What does that mean to us? That's in like what I talk in general. So in, I think around 64, 65 BC, like 65 years before Christ was born, the Julian calendar, Emperor Julian, decided to set up a calendar, like months and days, and how we're gonna, what is the year cycle and what we're going to call these months, and each month, how many days, all of this. He established that. And that's why, August, Julio, right? Isn't that what we call it? Sometimes we hear the name Julio. Why is it called Julio? It's after Julius, Julius Caesar, or, the Emperor Julius. He gave, a month was named after him. Augustus, all of these like names of gods and names of emperors. So in 65, I think it's in the 60s, I think, or around that time, that this emperor, this Roman emperor, decided to establish this calendar. That, you know what, the calendar year for the Roman Empire is going to be divided into these months, and each month into these days, and all of this. And this is the beginning. This is the end of this month. This is the beginning. All of this. This is the order. Then in the 6th century, Pope Gregory, he's a bishop in Rome. He basically says, he got all these people who understands the movement of, stars and the sun and all of this. And they realized there were some issues with the old calendar, with the calendar that Julian, emperor had established 600 years before. And they realized no, they did some wrong calculations. And that's why we have now the, the day that you add in
February, the
Leap year?
Leap year, the leap day, the 29th. Although it's actually started, with the Julian calendar. But the point is, at some point in the 6th century, without going into a lot of details, Pope Gregory and some researchers back at his time realized Julian, basically the way he set up the calendar, he's off by 13 days. So, what's actually, if today is today's 10/14, like back then, before that, he would say, no, we are actually 13 days ahead. Whatever, based on their calculation, I honestly don't know much. So what they did, they're like, okay, so nowadays we're gonna start. Okay, now it's not anymore 10/14. It's actually 13 days from now. So today is 10/27. And that's how they started their calendar. They kept the other, the way the months they're divided and all of this. So that became the new calendar in a way that got spread out around the world and became the calendar of all nations. Except in the Orthodox Church, they kept saying, no, we're going to keep counting the days, and we're going to keep, how to say this, like basically using the dates on the old calendar. So the Orthodox Church kept saying like, no, today it's still for us 10/14. We're not gonna, adapt the new thing and now say, oh, well, we're going, to add 13 days. What does that mean? I'll give you a better example in a way. What do we do now what does Arizona do now? If you know the state of Arizona with the time change, do you know what they do?
Change.
Yeah, they don't change the time.
So here's your, hopefully that we can make you get it, understand it better. So it's like the world decided, the whole United States decided, oh, well, we're all gonna change the time of the day, on that day for an hour. So now, although it's 8:47, we want everybody now to change their clocks to 9:47. And what did the old states do? Okay, everybody, it's 9:47 now. What does Arizona do? No, I refuse to do that. You do it in your own area. I'm going to keep it 8:47 or whatever, the time change. Same thing, what happened? Gregory came and says, no, everybody, we should all push 13 days ahead. The calendar is wrong, that instead of saying, oh, today is 10/14, no, we're actually 13 days ahead, whatever, based on whatever calculation, we need to be 10/27. So tomorrow is 10/28. And after tomorrow is 10/29. It's not anymore 10/15, 10/16, 10/17. So the Orthodox Church says, like Arizona said, no. For our churches, we're going to still we're not going to change the time. We're still going to rely on the Julian calendar. We're not changing the time. We're not changing the dates. Till the 1920s. Like 1,300 years later, some of the churches like, okay, the whole world became basically, or most of the world became adapting, and all the world actually adapted the new calendar. So it's like, okay, the church after church became adapting also the new calendar. But Russia, although secularly in the government, they use the same thing as in Palestine, they use the secular calendar, but in the church, they use the calendar year. So in the mind of the church, today is not the 14th. Today is what? In the mind of the Church of Jerusalem and the Church of Serbia and the Church of Russia, it's 13 days behind. So in the mind of the church in Jerusalem, in Serbia, in Georgia, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know, I'm not sure, in Russia, but at least, Serbia, Russia, and Jerusalem, in their mind, no. Today in our calendar, it's not 10/14, it's 10/1. That's why on September 14th of this calendar, like the calendar that we use here, in Jerusalem, what was it? A month ago. It was 9/1, September 1st. It was 13 behind. That's why in Jerusalem and the other countries that I mentioned, they celebrate the feast, of the cross on the secular calendar, which we're following now, at least Antioch follows it, which is, instead of on 9/27, because in the calendar of the church, it's 9/14, not 9/27. Maybe yes, no. I see some people either got
it makes sense.
sleepy, some got sleepy, maybe got tired, or some was like, what happened? 13 days and 14 days and all of this. Again,
I lived it, Father. That's why.
Yeah.
Sure, it's like
it makes total
The
sense.
Armenians are even a week after.
in
Adonai Bada was more coming.
So this one, it's because they also added a couple feasts that they do, but like the point is in the end. So technically, here's an example: you can celebrate Christmas here on December 25th in the state, in the Antiochian Patriarchate, in the Antiochian Archdiocese. And guess what? Take a plane and go to Jerusalem, because technically December 25th, in the eyes of the Church of Jerusalem, it's no, it's not. It's the secular calendar. Yes, it says December 25th, but our church calendar is 13 behind, so it's December 12th. So you can actually go back to Jerusalem, okay, and then stay 13 days. And guess what? It says January 7th, and you'll be like, I'm just going back. I'm going back in time in a way, and I'm going to celebrate Christmas all over again, because the Orthodox Church in Jerusalem, like in Russia, like in Serbia, they're following the old calendar.
Yeah, there is one explanation that I don't want to defend them, but they say because of the Holy Sepulchre is a limited space for pilgrimage, that they come from all over the world. So they divided it so they can accommodate all the pilgrims that they come, at separate times to the Holy Sepulchre. That's the explanation we got. But
it makes, practically it makes a lot of sense, because you'll have thousands of people. But also one of the reasons that the churches did not, the ones that did not accept it, they were very adamant about all the feasts of the church were established basically by the by the 4th century. All the major feasts of the church were established by the 4th century, especially Pascha, Easter. Why are we going to play now with calendars and that change? And that's why our Paschas do not align with the Catholics. You know why?
With the Catholics, Father, I have a different idea, because in the Bible, first they celebrated Passover, then the Pascha. And with the Catholics, a lot of times they celebrate Pascha before Passover, and and it doesn't meet the equinox, and what we follow.
But can I tell you something?
Yes.
Even now, even when you look at the documents from the First Ecumenical Council and from the 4th century, or the interpretation of these, it will tell you at the end of the day, even if Pascha falls before Passover, that's okay to celebrate it. But it's hard for us to that happen, because how we confuse both calendars. I don't want to confuse you more, but I'll tell you that.
Abuna, for Pascha, though, do we not still use technically the lunar calendar, the Julian, right?
The old calendar. That's why I said, if you want me to confuse you. So
okay,
for all the 12 feasts that I mentioned, all the 12 feasts that, Christmas, presentation, all of this, we use the new calendar. We use the Gregorian calendar, except Pascha is calculated according to the old calendar. Sometimes be like, why do we do these things? It's like sometimes we make things more complicated, for ourselves. It's like, oh, I can go straight to get to point A to B, or I can just make a trip that goes this way and then go back this way and try to get my ear like this in it. The church always has reason to do, why, or at least some kind of an explanation. But Pascha is affected by the way we celebrate Pascha. It's the first Sunday after the full moon, okay, after the beginning of the spring equinox. Here's the problem. When is spring? What is
March 21st.
So when we say March 21st, new calendar or old calendar?
Question.
New calendar, right? It's
New
like
calendar.
now, like when do we celebrate it now? Like,
are you in Antioch or you're in Jerusalem?
So we're doing the Gregorian calendar.
نحن تابعين عيد الأم on Mother's Day.
Okay, so in the secular calendar, right? March 21st is the first day of spring, right? So technically, as the Orthodox Church in Antioch, Greece, Turkey, Romania, all the other ones, technically, that's the day of the starting of the equinox, the spring equinox, right? But then we said those churches that I just mentioned, Antioch, Greece, in the Ecumenical Patriarchate in Romania, says, yes, I know, we know that we adapted the new calendar for all the other feasts, except when it came to that feast of Easter, Pascha, we're going to rely on the old calendar when it comes to the spring equinox. So when we say the spring equinox in the new calendar starts March 21st, what would that be on the old calendar?
Plus 13 days.
Like
13 days
March, so March 21st is on the new calendar. It's technically 13 days behind to get the, so it's March 8th, right? On the old calendar. So the church says, okay, so March 21st, add 13 days to it. So 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, April 1st, April 2nd, April 3rd, April 4th. So when it's April 4th,
My birthday.
huh?
That's my birthday.
Oh, see? So technically, Deacon, although you're April 4th on the new calendar, but on the old calendar, you're what?
21st.
March 21st. So the Orthodox Church in Antioch, Greece, Ecumenical Patriarchate, Romania, other countries, they said, okay, only for that day, we're going to use the old calendar, and then we can calculate Pascha from that. So spring in Palestine technically starts on April 4th.
Abuna, I think, I mean, I clearly, please correct me, but I thought the Antioch opted to stick to the lunar calendar for Pascha because of its historical nature, but all the other holidays or feast days because of the Muslim challenge. And that's why it didn't happen till like the 20s. Because because of the Ottoman pressure, then we opted to go with the same calendar as the West. Sorry.
Nicolette, what did I say? I said after the first equinox, but the what full what? Did I say the full sun?
Full moon.
I said the full moon. That's when it comes to the lunar, that's what we mean by it. So the full moon, we're still following the moon when it's full after the equinox, the spring equinox. Does that make sense?
So technically it's the full moon after April 4th.
So the Sunday after the full moon, after the spring. Okay.
So I'm going to show my ignorance, Abuna. I apologize again.
Yes.
Is the lunar calendar and the Julian calendar the same? No.
No.
Right?
You'll have, well, it's 28. It's depending. Well, here's the thing. The lunar calendar is, if any way, if we can, this is the Muslim calendar in a way.
I don't think
I thought it was the Jewish calendar. I'm sorry.
Abuna. This has nothing to do with the Julian
nothing
calendar.
to do with the Muslim calendar. It's just
well, hold on. But lunar, but they follow the moon, right? I mean, this one I'm not very sure, but it's 28 days, right, or whatever. It's
The months, yes,
moon.
they are shorter than the sun. The months, yes,
because they follow the moon. But like with us, it's the lunar calendar is not the Julian calendar. And again, it's
أبونا lunar calendar هو يعني بالعربي الهجري.
السنة القمرية. It depends instead of having the sun as the like the focus of that or the center of that calendar, it the moon becomes in his cycle around Earth or something, or how.
But is it associated with the Muslim because the Muslim عندهم الهجري مش أبونا?
Yes, that the proper name is Sana al-Hijri.
Yes, but it's based on the lunar calendar. They have their own lunar calendar.
Abuna, what's the Jewish calendar? I'm sorry, I understood lunar to be a Jewish calendar.
maybe that's in the old, maybe that's what they've used before. I don't know much about like how specific the like what is the details of the lunar calendar in a way when it comes to how.
And I
Jews-
thought that because Pascha was indexed to the Jewish.
Again, here's the thing.
I agree with Nicolette because yes, Passover it's linked to the Jewish calendar.
Yes, but what did I just say also to answer Deacon Nicola? It is not, yes, the Passover was the highlight or was the feast of feasts for the Jews, but with Christ, Pascha became. So there's no reason anymore to wait for Passover to happen or not to happen. Although a lot of times, most of the times, Pascha now takes place usually 2, 3 days, 4 days, sometimes after Passover, or sometimes a month after, depending on the time. But it's the same thing as the circumcision. It was not anymore, it's about the Jewish feast, more about what is it now, about a Christian, like the Christian feast. So baptism replaced circumcision. Pascha replaced the Jewish Passover. But again,
No, I'm sorry, I understand that, but the linkage was not so much religious as much as the timing of when Pascha happened. It happened to be when the Jewish in preparation for the Jewish Passover.
well, we know I mean, in the end of the day, Christ made it. So most likely, if we really want to go back, most likely, really it happened, the resurrection of Christ really happened the day of the Passover, because Holy Thursday it took place basically when they had the mystical supper, the supper. It was part of the Jewish tradition preparing for Passover. Yeah, that's why we do not celebrate, because there was also talks in the early church that we should have April 14th as a fixed day for Pascha, because that's another time calculating when it took place, that, oh, it should be April 14th. But then the church says, no, we want to change this because we want it to be on Sunday, because Sunday, the day we believe that Christ rose from the dead on that day, and also the meaningful of Sunday being the first day of the week. But the point is, in the end, there are a lot of things maybe in the beginning, you know, when it came to calendars, well, we followed the Jewish, whatever, but at the end, it became how to decide on the Pascha, the Feast of Pascha, the first Sunday after the full moon, which now you're waiting for the lunar, you know, cycle to wait. You're waiting for this moon to become full, and then after, so the first Sunday after the first, the full moon, after the full moon, after the spring, the spring equinox. I just don't know where the confusion is.
After Passover. After Passover.
Did I say the word Passover in my, you know?
No, the beginning of the spring, that's March 21st or March 8th.
Or April 4th. So
or April 4th.
Basically the Orthodox, at least in Antioch, they said, oh, well, on this feast, we're gonna rely on the old calendar when the equinox starts. So on April 4th, the new calendar, it's basically April 4th of the new calendar. It's basically March 21st on the old calendar, and that's why the calculation, we have this variation between the Catholic and us, because they're using the new calendar. We're not. We're using the old calendar on this. It's a lot of things that Deacon, God bless you. Allah khalik, good strength, and we'll see you. I know there's a lot of I can share with you multiple articles of, like, even till lately, people still fight about this. Why are we celebrating Pascha now? In this, according to this calculation, and there are better calculation here and stuff. But the general rule that came out in the First Ecumenical Council, it's the first Sunday after the full moon, after the spring equinox start. And that's how they can predict to many years ahead when that's going to happen. They can tell you from now to like 50 years later when Pascha is going to take place. Some people say, well, I'm sure there's still mistakes in the calendar and those not the fine, but that's what the church now relies on.
Thanks,
Nicola?
Abuna.
Thank you, Abuna.
You're okay. So yes, lunar calendar, but it's just for the full moon, not like the Jewish or the Passover. Yes, in the beginning, there was a lot of kind of conflict that we count on Passover or no, does it have to be before, does it have to be? I don't know if it ever happened because of the confusion we have between the two calendars. I don't know if it happened before where we celebrated before Passover, but it is not like capital N, capital O, capital T. It's not a requirement for Pascha to be always celebrated after Passover. So it might be that's what's been happening for a long time, but it's not a requirement. Again, the same concept as we don't circumcise people just because they, the Jewish, that's what they used to do. What did we replace circumcision with?
Baptism.
Okay, so we can't say, well, it's meaningful if it happened around it. It's of course it's beautiful, but it's not the rule. Well, 2 hours in, almost 2 hours. If Walid was, Walid or Angela, probably Walid was like 9 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock, but anyway, God bless you. We missed them today, but they had their reasons. Anyway, any other questions?
Just mind-blowing, Abuna, at the end, just very mind-blowing.
Just, we take things, we read it, little by little. There are a lot of, I don't know much about like all these calculations. People still, sometimes you hear a lot of back and forth, Facebook and even before Facebook, like articles like, but we're still calculating this wrong and stuff. But in general, these are the rules. Now working out the dates and which and why and all of this, it's always going to be a discussion. But in general, that's how we approach, that's how things are approached. Salim, good night.
I think there are only 4 feasts that we have to worry about being movable every year. Not all the feasts.
Right. Right.
Well, everything else, we do have this confusion. I mean, in the end, either let's switch everything to the new calendar or everything old calendar, like the old, us like, we're going to celebrate those on, on the specific calendar, but we're going to leave Pascha on this calendar. Okay, why did we have to change? But we follow. It's fine. No, we're not going to complain about this, but it is good.
Bulletin, it's good enough for me.
If the bulletin says Pascha is on this day, khalas. If December 25th, fine.
Father, do you think the Senate, they can change it?
Yes. So as a synod, they can say, the Holy Synod of Antioch, they can say, you know what, we want to now reuse or rely on the old calendar like the other churches, like the other Patriarchate of Jerusalem, Patriarchate of Russia. That's a decision that can only be made by a synod. A metropolitan on his own cannot do it. Our metropolitan can say this on his own. Metropolitan of Argentina cannot say this on his own. Metropolitan of Beirut cannot say this on his own. Metropolitan of whoever archdiocese, it has to come from the synod to say, everybody, we are making that decision as a whole, then we can do this.
Because like during the Pascha, the Muslims like, لاتين عندهم المسيح هلا كامل، الروم لا لسه نايم، لسه هلا بده يقوم. يعني really it is.
It's okay. Every Sunday for us, it's a memory in the end. Yes, we believe that it happened historically, but we don't care about in the end, every Sunday is a celebration of Pascha.
Yes, Pascha. Yeah.
And if a Muslim anyway would do they talk, ask them if they celebrate Ramadan the same day.
Oh, they don't. No,
Why?
They don't.
Why?
No, they don't. Yeah.
One relies on Saudi Arabia to say, we see the full moon, and one relies on Iran. Okay, if you're, okay, sometimes the day before, day after, whatever it is, the difference. Okay. So if we celebrate Pascha, if we celebrate Pascha, I hear myself multiple times. But if we celebrate Pascha, differently, okay, they have the same problem. When they celebrate, Ramadan the same day together, Sunnis and Shiite, let them come to us and say, oh, you're celebrating your Pascha different days. Let them mind their own business, we mind our own business.
I mean,
you're right.
Praise God.
On that note,
they say last
On that
time,
note.
On that
last
note,
time, did anybody say that Zoom costs money or it's okay?
Not the length. We pay for it, monthly, but we, it doesn't matter. We can open it 24/7. But this time, I still need to drive.
It is.
yeah,
Father.
you need to get going on the road.
In the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. We thank you, O Lord, for all the blessings you bestow upon us, for all this gathering that we learn your word, so we can glorify you now and forever and unto ages of ages. Amen. I love those discussions,
Amen.
asking these
Thank you,
questions.
Abuna.
I'm very glad when you challenge things, because that's,